Well, hello everybody and welcome to another episode, and this week we're going to have a look at this lens with a monstrous lens cap. This is a Carl Zeiss Jena lens. It's the Carl Zeiss Flektogon. There's the magic word, Flektogon. F4 20mm, so this is a very wide lens indeed. There is also an f2.8 version of this lens that's usually a little more expensive than this one. This sells for around £130 to £150, and the f2.8 goes up to around £180 or thereabouts, maybe £200. It's known for all the famous Carl Zeiss Jena virtues, and if you've seen this channel before, you know that I am something of a Carl Zeiss Jena fan. The Pancolar, with which you are looking at me right now, with which I'm shooting, is the sharpest 50mm that I've ever tested of any vintage lens, and it's unbeaten to this day. Many have come close, but none have beat it. So I'm a big fan of the CZJ lenses, and I've only just learned about this one actually. This one was one that I didn't know existed for some time, and now I've got one. So it's got all those, as I say, all those famous CZJ virtues. That is wonderful, radiant, intense colour, very, very sharp, and with a crazy minimum focus distance. All the CZJ lenses focus closely, but this one focuses more closely than any other CZJ I've encountered, at 15 centimetres or about 6 inches, so it really is quite something. This lens is also known for its minimal distortion. With a great many wide-angle lenses, the wider you go, the more distortion you get in straight lines, especially close to the lens. This one is very well known for not giving any of that distortion, or a very, very minimal amount of distortion. So it's great for architecture shots. It's great for any shots that you have to preserve those straight lines, and it's also a great lens for filmmaking as well. Filmmakers, more often than using longer lenses, use wide lenses if you watch a movie carefully, and this is fantastic for movie making if you're into movie making, because it keeps the lines straight. You don't get any distortion, and you don't want that on a movie, because a movie is by its nature a realist thing. So this is a really great lens, but this one, well, I bought it in a state where it was a little bit sorry for itself. It had a bit of fungus behind the front element, which was made very clear in the advert. Also, the aperture, it said in the ad, sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. This is an exacta version of the lens, so what you're supposed to do is turn the dial to the aperture that you want, push this button, and it's supposed to then close down to the aperture. And in fact, let me show you the lens up close. So there is the lens, and you can see that beautiful big element. You can see also this magic word here, Flektogon, which is what we want to see. So this is an exact amount. What you're supposed to do is push this button here, and the aperture is supposed to close down. As you can see, this one's still stuck open. It did work when I got it for the first few goes, but it didn't work thereafter. So it does seem to be stuck at F4. I know that you can turn this ring, this outer ring here, into one position or another to lock or unlock, but at any position this one is stuck. I have done a little bit of well, what I laughingly call remedial work, but it's not really been terribly successful. Well, tell a lie, actually, some of it has been successful. What I did with it at first was to clean this front element, so I First of all, thought that the front ring here would unscrew, and here's the front ring, so you can see that it's the usual thing. And I got my lens spanner in there and turned it, but it was blocked by this plate, this front plate. These often are constructed so that they hold the ring in to provide an extra layer of security and keep the whole thing together. So eventually I was able to get that off by some rather Heath Robinson means that actually did work, as you can see here. So I've got the faceplate off, I got the ring off. I was able to unscrew that once I'd got the faceplate off, and then I was able to take out this front element, and I was very pleased to see that it's only the front element that had the fungus. So what I did with it then was I got some ordinary household vinegar, which is probably the least harmful thing to coatings. I know it doesn't harm coatings too much. I just gently washed it, as you can see, in just ordinary household malt vinegar, and that kills the fungus. Now, I did shoot it before I cleaned it, and you can see the results here. And the main thing that you can see as a result of the fungus behind that front element is light bleed. And what I mean by that is where you have an area of light and then an area of dark right next to each other, so an intense bright area. So if you're photographing a building, for example, and the sky intrudes like it does in this shot, you can see that that light is being transmitted in a way that it shouldn't be through the glass, and it's just straying over into the dark area and washing out the contrast of the lens. And that's generally what happens if you have a dirty lens like this one was. It wasn't actually too bad. It was quite surprising that it managed, even in such a dirty state, to give me such nice results. It gave really nice colours. The colours are very intense. If you can keep the contrast up and keep away from areas of light bleed and those areas of strong light and strong darkness, then the lens behaved quite nicely. You could see the colours coming through very strongly, and you could see the CZJ intensity of colour, although I must say this one is just a little less intense than other CZJ lenses that I've shot. I don't know if that's due to its condition or if it just happened to be made that way. That's part of its characteristics, I don't know. So it did give lowish contrast in those difficult lighting conditions. Now, many lenses do that to some extent. In fact, all will do it to some extent, but in a good lens, it's not going to happen too much and you're not going to see it, but it clearly did happen here. However, colour was nice, as I say, and it turned out to be a very, very sharp lens indeed. Really quite stunningly sharp, and on a level with the Pancolar. I've rarely seen a lens as sharp as this, and I've shot many, many, many lenses, vintage ones and modern ones. And this one compares with the best of them for sharpness. It really is up there in the sharpness stakes. Now, you wouldn't usually expect a lens with this short focal length to give you very much background blur, but this one does, because it's able to go so close. When you go to that minimum focus distance of about 6 inches or 15 centimetres, it will give you some blur. And in fact, even if you're a little way back from that minimum distance, it will still give you some nice blur if you're fairly close to your subject. And in those conditions, I found it does make nice blur, and it's got a little bit of that Zeiss swirl, though it's really just a hint of it, although it does display some of it. So pre-cleaning, it worked pretty nicely, though it obviously did need a clean, so that's what we did. So after that I then went out and shot it again. After cleaning, well, the lens was better and it did behave better than it had done on its first outing pre-cleaning. There was less light bleed. I think it behaved better in those circumstances, and there was less incorrect transmission of light through the front glass than there had been previously, but there is still some, I think. It still has lower contrast than I expected, and I think, to be honest, I think the coatings have been damaged on this lens. I don't know if you can see here. Let me show you more closely. I think there are areas where the fungus has damaged the coating on the lens, and that can happen if fungus sits on a lens for a long time. It does start to eat away at the coating. I think you can see there perhaps. I'm not sure if this is making it clear, but there are areas of damage that I can see. If I look very closely, there are areas of damage that I can see on that coating. So unfortunately we do have some coating damage, but that's all right. There's less light bleed. The colours were more resonant, I'm glad to say, and that the character of the lens is beginning to come through, and so I was kind of fairly pleased at this partial success. It may be that the rear elements need some cleaning. It may be that I need to get further into the lens to get the most out of it, and further cleaning is almost certainly needed on this lens. But I think what we really need more than anything else is a repair to the coatings on that front element. Now, how we would get that done, I don't know. Is it worth buying another scrap lens with a good front element, or should we just say that we've done what we can with this lens and use it as we can? I think that's what I'll do with it, actually, because it does give kind of nice results. The colours are very striking, the sharpness is fantastic, and it just doesn't make any distortion at all. Now, I really enjoyed using this as a street lens, and wides are difficult for street because you've got to get very close to your subject, and you've got to get right up close and personal, and pretty much almost stick the lens in the face, which obviously you don't want to do. It upsets people, and it's just not the right way to do it. Nevertheless, I've found that depth of field, even stuck fully open, if I set this lens to about 0.5 of a metre, I found that I could get some shots of people as they pass by and have them in nice sharp focus, and at those moments you catch people in very natural moments. So I was quite pleased with the performance of the lens as a street lens, and I think I got some nice shots with it that way. So cleaning glass is the easy bit, at least in terms of mechanical repair. So the next thing was, can we do anything about the stuck aperture? Well, here's what happened with that. Well, I tried a little bit of ISO alcohol, and the button's now easier to push and it's easier to turn. It is easier to turn, but unfortunately we're still not getting the shutting down of the aperture that we should have. So let's do a little more investigation. I don't want to do too much more just at the moment, but I think we could usefully undo this screw here and this screw here and just see what's going on underneath. So we'll just have a little look at that. You never quite know how tightly these screws are in. Oh, that one's come out nice and easy after 50 years or so. Let's see if its companion will be as obliging. Oh yes, we're clearly in luck today. Now this is the scary bit, and it is scary taking these old lenses apart because you never know what little springs and bits are going to fly out and you're going to lose. So let's see. Ah, yes, springs, okay. Well, that's certainly a spring, no doubt about that. And what's actually supposed to happen here? So this little thing here is the thing that is supposed to change our aperture. Can you see that tiny little piece there? And it's not doing its job. Something's got stuck. Now the question is, do I just encourage that with a little bit of ISO or some other similar solvent? Well, why stop now just when we're enjoying it? Right, let's just get a little bit down there, or perhaps more than a little bit down there. Work it a little bit. Well, I'm not sure we're achieving anything there. That mechanism seems well and truly stuck. That's obviously the little mechanism that should shut the aperture down, but it doesn't. And honestly, I don't want to go too much further for this video. I will come to this lens and re-look at it again, because this is probably not too difficult a fault to sort out. But I think perhaps for this morning we may have reached the limit of our explorations. Alright, so back to square one. Do we have a working aperture? No, we don't. Let's turn it the other way. No, it still doesn't work. Darn it. So as you can see, my attempts to fix up the aperture mechanism did not succeed, and I probably didn't go into it as far as I should have done. I really hoped there was a fault in this little mechanism here, but it seems that things are just a little bit too far gone, and I really need to open up the lens more and get at those aperture blades and clean them, and I will do that. That will be coming up in another episode, but it was just a little bit too much to get done for this one. So if anyone knows or has any information about how to fix these exacta aperture mechanisms on the CZJ lenses, or anyone able to tell me what might be wrong, please do tell me in the comments box. I'll be very pleased to have any information that anyone has. Also, what do you think I should do with this lens? Should I keep it and recondition it and try and recoat that front element somehow, or get another front element somehow? Should I sell it and get a better one, or should I just accept it and use it as it is? Tell me in the comments box what you think. I'll be very pleased to hear your opinions. So, a nice little adventure with a very unusual and very capable lens, but this version is slightly flawed, and I must say that those flaws do endear it to me a little bit. I've got a soft spot for equipment that is slightly past its best. Right, coming up soon in the show, we have, what do we have? We've got lots of Exacta cameras coming in, or some Exacta's cameras coming in, an Exacta and an Exa, beautiful old film cameras, also some Praktikas. So we're going to have a look at the East German photographic industry, and what you can buy, and what are the best kind of cameras they made. We got a bunch of vintage lenses coming up, including a Helios 135mm f 2.8, and various other vintage lenses of various focal lengths, which we're going to do a bumper episode on for you. My recommendations for vintage lenses, or further recommendations. And we've got an episode coming up on this beautiful 7 Artisans f.95 for APS-C. Here's a little teaser. There it is. That's for another time. So, to sum up, a very, very nice little lens, available from around about £130 to £150 in good condition for an f4 version, or a little more than that, maybe 170 to 200 for the f2.8 version. I think this is a fantastic lens. If you want a wide lens, there are very, very few that are better than this. It has no distortion, or almost no distortion. It has beautiful, beautiful CZJ colours, and it's very, very sharp into the bargain. It's great for photography, architectural photography. It's great if you don't want distortion, and it's great for filmmaking. And I think at 150 quid, I think this is the lens you cannot afford to ignore. It's a beautiful wide lens. If you're a full frame shooter, as I am, this is a fantastic piece of kit. So that's it from me for today. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell thing before you go. And if you'd like to support this channel and help it to grow and to develop, you can do that at patreon.com/Zenography, and you can do that from as little as $1 a month. As always, thank you very much indeed for watching, and I will see you next time for some more Zenography.